Hello, this is Cass, and today we are here at Tune Studios with artist Barz. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Great. Thank you for having us at your fine establishment, place of business.
The doors is open.
The doors is open. You have quite a nice setup here. The camera can't see everything, but Tune Studios, you guys got to book your appointments.
Check us out.
I checked out your website. This is my first time meeting Barz, and you're not an artist. You're a producer, engineer, but it says in your bio that you're a musician also. At one point, were you an artist?
Yeah. I mean, I still consider myself an artist because I consider production and engineering art, but technically I'm not a vocal artist. But yeah, I started off as a recording artist, and I was doing a lot and in studios, and it was just costly, and I was trying to figure out, damn, how could I really make some money doing this? And that's when I kind of started getting more interested in engineering because I was always paying the engineer was always getting paid. So I was like, you know what, that seemed kind of cool, let me try and figure that out. So that's how I kind of ended up in this lane.
And you fell in love with it once you started getting the hang of it, the engineering part of it?
Yeah, I fell in love with it because it's a science, but then there's art to it too. And being an artist, I kind of seen how I was helping other artists, and that's something that my personality, I like helping people and building with people, and being an artist and being an engineer at the same time. A lot of times I would go to the studios as an artist, and the engineer and the artist, the communication just be off. The engineer is so heady, and the artist be,
Heady too.
Yeah, the artist be in their head. But with me, I always had good communication with the artist because I could understand from an artist's perspective, what they was really trying to communicate. Maybe even give them some ideas and help them enhance what they had going. So it really worked in my favor, and that's really how I built my brand.
That's probably why you're so good at what you do, because like you mentioned, you sympathize with the artist because at one point you were an artist, you've been there, but this is a business now, and you know how to bring them both together. So that's dope. Yeah. Grammy Award producer, might I add. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's the first thing that I seen in Grammy Award. I was like, okay, I'm about to interview Grammy Award.
That's the first thing I'm like, I'm pushing that, because that's really been a life changer. Like, I've been through a lot just in life, in my career, and my testament is really, just to let people know that anything is possible. And, when I won the Grammy, it was like, I started working on a project and there wasn't no Grammys in sight. I was recommended to this blues artist named Fantastic Negrito through a friend of mine who was also a client. And at the time, Fantastic Negrito, whose real name is Xavier, he was looking for an engineer to help him record his project. And his story is like, he was like an ex-musician who was like getting back into it, and he had a record deal with Interscope back in the day, and then he ended up getting in a really bad car accident in the late 90s, and he was like, I think he was in a coma and paralyzed for a little bit, and still to this day, one of his whole arms is like a prosthetic type situation where he, it's like the fingers don't move or nothing. Yeah, so he would be stroking the guitar like, how people be picking it like, like he just be strumming it like, you know what I'm saying? Like no fingers moving or nothing. But so anyways, I got recommended to him, and he was just telling me all these ideas that he had about the Fantastic Negrito thing, and the whole angle was like black roots music. And so I was down. It was something totally different than what I had ever done. And I was like, this is interesting. But at the time, this was like around 2015 into 2014, my son was just born. And, I was kind of desperate, trying to get work, still be in my field. And, he wasn't really paying that much. And it was like, I was kind of just going off on a limb, just even doing it. And but I stuck with the project, and basically, to make a long story short, he used to street perform at bar stations out here in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And he was performing at a bar station in San Francisco, and somebody from the Grammy Association in San Francisco, the San Francisco chapter, seen him and was like really captivated by what he was doing. And they gave him a card, and it was like, man, you know, you dope, and they exchanged words or whatever. And I don't think he really, you know, took it to heart. You know, he was just like, okay, that's.
He's been through the whole thing, you
Yeah,
know,
he was
before.
like,
He
you
was
know,
signed at one
whatever.
point. He knows the industry.
But the crazy thing is, so his mixing engineer, after like a couple months later, he's about to get the album mixed. He gives it to the mixing engineer, and the mixing engineer was actually friends with that same dude, and they end up striking up a conversation. And the dude is like, you know, what are you working on? And he's like, well, I'm working on this Fantastic Negrito project. And he's like, Fantastic Negrito, you know, because that's like, you don't really hear, I never heard of no Fantastic Negrito. Like, that's like a name that gets people. He's like, I seen dude performing at the bar station. He was like, yeah, man, it's a dope album or whatever. He was like, look, when you're done mixing it, shoot that to me and I'll submit it to the Grammys. So the mixing engineer tells X, he's like, man, you know, my dude said he seen you performing and he wants us to submit it. X was like, go ahead and do it, you know? So goes ahead and submits it, and, you know, these motherfuckers end up winning a Grammy. You know, and it was such an organic project. It was an independent project. It wasn't backed by no major label. One of the few and only projects, like, in that year that was like one of the few that was independently backed, that wasn't with no major, you know. So it was really an inspiration for not only us here in the Bay, but for independent musicians around the world, you know, because he put up his own money. You know what I'm saying? He got a family. He got two twin girls and a son, you know, and, you know, he the breadwinner, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, you know, it was a lot on the line with that project, but I think having been in the industry, having had the Interscope deal, and, you know, just being the man that he is, you know, he kind of knew how to play it, and shit, he ended up winning. We all end up winning.
Cool. Yeah. Do you still talk to him to this day? You guys keep.
That's my guy. Yeah, my son done been over there. My son knows his kids. You know, he's like a real Oakland dude. He's hella cool. He's really involved in the community. He travels a lot now, but yeah, he's just a genuine guy.
How since then? Because you said around that time your son was born. How has fatherhood and your music? How is that all balancing out for you? How do you make it work?
It's difficult because I take fatherhood very seriously, you know, and this is a very narcissistic industry that we in, you know. I mean, everybody, you know, me being a service provider, you know, at the end of the day, people are just concerned with what I could do for them, you know, but that's not my concern. You know, I do what I can. I mean, and then too, that's one of the other reasons why this Grammy was such a blessing, because I put in a lot of work and I've helped a lot of people. You know, and I haven't necessarily seen all of the benefits, you know. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I hate to be entitled about it, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's people out here making more money than me. It's people out here traveling and doing more shows than me. But shit, I end up getting that Grammy, though. You know what I'm saying? And you can't take that back. And when it comes to balancing fatherhood, you know, just one thing about life that I've learned is, you know, you just got to choose for you, you know, how you going to define yourself and what's important to you and act on that, you know. So, you know, I'm not able to take all the sessions that, you know, that come my way, but it's not always that important, you know. So I just have to pick and choose, you know, who, you know, what's important. And, you know, it's really, I think before I had my son, I had put in a lot of work to the point where I had earned certain respect and, you know, from different people, that now it's kind of like I don't necessarily have to do every single session or, and one of the other things that I'm doing is transitioning from being in the studio to, you know, doing a lot of work from home as a producer and working one-on-one with just particular artists on projects like Will King. Yeah. So.
What project are you working on for him right now?
I don't know the name of the project, but I know it's gonna change the game. I know that. You know, I know we've been working really hard, and you know, this guy, he's one of the most interesting and intelligent and just creative artists that I've, you know, ever worked with. And some of the music that he's, you know, about to release is really about to, you know, not only get people, you know, moving and feeling the music, but just thinking about a lot of different things, you know. and just bringing some more insight into, into the game where it's like everything is just so dumbed down.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think storytelling is a concept in hip hop. Music alone, it's dead now. It's not really around. So when I do come across conscious artists and lyricists, I'm like, man, I forgot what it's like to sit back and listen and feel what I'm listening to instead of trying to guess like what the fuck are they talking about?
Right.
What is that? Hold on, I gotta rewind it because I don't know if they said bread or dead. I'm like, wait, what?
Man, it's crazy right now because there's really a concerted effort, because now we live in the age of information, and we have these tools, thankfully, to the internet to allow us to communicate with people that we couldn't necessarily reach. Yeah. But then there's really a concerted effort where people are putting money into creating campaigns that appear to be independent, you know what I'm saying, but they're really not, and they're pushing messages that aren't coming from the community, the hip hop community, the indie artist community, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a lot of different things going on, but we still here, you know what I'm saying? We still spreading our messages.
I know when it comes to the community, you mentioned that there's a lot you want to do when it comes to giving back. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, after having won the Grammy and stuff, one thing that I'm interested in is teaching and being able to kind of give people that are interested in doing music and independently the game on, some of the resources that are available, some ways that they can go out and make a living doing this, because a lot of people aren't really aware of how they can make a living doing this. Yeah. They think, oh, music is cool and, I want to be involved and I want to be popular. But, they get in it for a while and they start, you're not making no money, you got to get out. So, I want to show people that it is possible to make a living doing this. This is all I do, and there's resources out there to help you have a sustainable living doing this, whether it's engineering, recording, working with artists, managing artists, booking events, and so many different things. And this is like $1 billion industry. Yep. So there's no reason why people should be confused about where the money's at.
A lot of people just see studios and they think like the glitz and glam or whatever, like, oh, smoking, drinking, doing this and that, and when in reality you're not supposed to be smoking around the equipment. You're not supposed to be drinking around electronics. Like, this is business. It's business. You're paying for a certain amount of time. When that time's up, unless you're paying for more, you got to get out, take your friends with you. They didn't pay, they got to go.
I done seen a lot too, and some people, that's the reason why they do it, because they just come here to have a good time. They might work.
Their friends and
everything. Yeah, what I'm saying? It's not really about the music, It's
about the, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. It's about the fad, pretty much. They just think like, oh yeah, I'm going to take these girls and I'm going to show them what I'm doing. You ain't doing nothing. Yeah. You guys could do that. Right. Go do that at your house. Come back when you're serious. Yeah. Well, what other affiliates have you had? I know that you work with Will, but what are your past affiliates?
My past affiliates? Well, I've worked with a lot of established Bay Area artists, and that's kind of like where I've been centralized. So, I guess if we're going to talk about that. Rest in peace to Jacka. I don't know if you're familiar with him. That was like somebody I was really working with really close to right before he passed away. Paul Wall, then been through here and worked with him. Freeway, Philadelphia Freeway, not the Rick Ross, not the boss. But Freeway, then been through here. Then of course Filthy Rich from Oakland, Mr. Fab from Oakland.
Will mentioned Fab too.
Yeah, Mr. Fab is definitely big out here and definitely involved with the community out here. But yeah, a lot of my clients are just regular, ordinary people, and we all help each other, we all support each other. And without them, I couldn't be doing this, and I'm grateful, because when it comes to balancing fatherhood and parenthood, those times where I was like, man, I'm just about to get a regular job. And I did, I've done all different types of work, but people will still be hitting me and like begging me to get in and work. Yeah, it draws, yeah. You know?
A dealer of music.
Right, for real, yeah. I got that crack. Come on, man. Like, Barz. I need you.
Bars.
For real. But it's like, but look, with this music is powerful because I work with people, they come in here and they expressing stuff that they can't necessarily express to their girlfriend or to their parents or whatever. They get in that booth and they zone out and they just speak their truth. You know?
Sometimes it's that girlfriend and that whoever
that they talking about.
Like, you know what, man? I got something to do later.
Right, come on. Hey.
Go off the fucking hinges on this
For real. You know, shit. I mean, man, it's like, yeah, and that's what every experience that I've had, I bring that and I'm able to relate to the artists that I'm working with. And it's like, I try to just understand where they're coming from and help them create a product or, you know, something that a product or something that they could just have. It's not necessarily for sale always, but it's like something that they could cherish and listen to and like their own music or just be like, man, I was able to get that off my chest.
It's like the difference for sale for self. It's like for them, you know what I mean?
There you go.
So,
for
yeah.
sale or for self.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today and for giving me this interview. I appreciate it.
The pleasure's all mine.
I know that on Barz, on Instagram, your name on Instagram is Barz.
At Barz Makes Bangers.
At Barz Makes Bangers. Where else
Don't be a stranger.
Where else can people find you at?
You can find me on my website, www.barz.io. Then yeah, just Google me, man. I'm everywhere. SoundCloud, BeatStars, YouTube, all of it.
Awesome. I will be writing my blog and posting it onto my Instagram, Tiny Car Interviews, and any links will be provided on there as well. Thank you guys for tuning in and stay blessed.